Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 62 of Not the Worsted Knitting Podcast. My name is Michelle, and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind meeshyfrazz Knits. In today's episode, we've just got a normal podcast. I feel like my knitting mojo has come back. I've been working on one single project for a very long time, and I just finished. And so now, all of a sudden, I have a bunch of different cast-ons. It is officially fall. I think the first day of fall was a couple of days ago, so I've got a nice light sweater on. You can see I have brought Tuna's throne out so he can join without stealing my seat today. So I think this is going to be a fun, cozy episode. So why don't we go ahead and get started by talking about what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Weekender Light, and this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. This pattern is a few years old now, as is this sweater. I knit this out of Juniper Moon Farm Herriot Fine in the color Jadeite. And it's this really beautiful green with all of these flecks of blue in it, which I just love. And this is, I think this is a 75% alpaca, 25% nylon blend. I think that this is actually meant to be like an alpaca sock yarn, but I really, really love this for this sweater. It's funny too, because sometimes I can be a little bit sensitive to alpaca, but I don't really find that to be the case with this. If I were to wear this where it's warm out, I might find it a little bit prickly, but right now it's in the low 60s and I'm really comfortable. The other thing I really loved about this yarn is that it's technically a lighter gauge than what Andrea Mowry calls for. I think in this pattern, she actually called for Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which I don't really consider to be a fingering weight. Like, it's listed as a fingering weight, but it's definitely more on like the sport weight side of things. Whereas this yarn is like a light fingering. So I did not meet gauge. I believe I had to go up 1 or 2 sizes. I had to do some interesting gauge math just because I had to do 1 size for the length and 1 size for the width just to get the size that I actually wanted to fit me. But I am really happy with the results, and I'm glad I stuck with this yarn despite the gauge. Also, what I love is that because it's got such a fuzzy quality to it because of the alpaca, it softens the stitches enough to where you don't really see the stitch definition. That was pretty important for me on this because the body of your sweater you are knitting inside out, so the wrong side of the fabric is what's showing on the outside. But then when you pick up the sleeves, you're knitting those right side out. So you have the back side of the fabric showing here and the right side of the fabric showing here. But the fuzzy quality of this yarn, it kind of hides the difference in the stitches. Let me come up close so you can see. Hopefully you can see okay. I mean, of course, if you look close, you can see obviously that this is the wrong side of the fabric, but I don't think it's very obvious. And I really like that about this. That way you're not obviously seeing that there's 2 different stitches happening. So why don't we go ahead and chat about my finished objects and my works in progress. I actually finally have a finished object for you guys. So if you have been watching me for a while, you know I have been on a Misty Pines Sweater journey. I just finished my 3rd sample, and so this guy is done. You can see I just pulled this off the blocking mats today. So I still have to weave in the ends. That's actually why I'm not wearing it today, because I still have to weave everything in, and I'm gonna show you the inside out because that's always fun to see. All right, I'm just gonna flip this. I'm not gonna flip the whole thing inside out, but you can see here, these are all of the ends that I need to weave in. But this is basically what the inside of this looks like. I did not catch my floats, so that's just something I chose to do. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with my color work gauge, and I feel comfortable allowing floats to kind of stay loose. I'm not worried about getting my hand stuck. I'm, of course, very careful when I put this sweater on, and I'm really happy with how the fabric looks when I'm done. My gripe with catching floats sometimes is that you can see it through the fabric, and sometimes it will even make the fabric even tighter. So I avoid that when I can. I understand that some people prefer that, and it really, I think, is just up to your preference. Another thing some of my testers did for this pattern was ladder back jacquard, which I think is also a good method for this. So I'm really thrilled to have this 3rd version done. This was kind of a saga because I started with this design where I had the very small motif. This motif is a pattern that I used on my Misty Pines beanie and mitts from a couple of years ago. Really wanted to make a sweater. So I had this version, but I really wanted a version where the trees came up higher. So I did a 2x version of this completely exactly to scale. And I did that. And it was a really fun, blocky graphic version, but I still really wanted one that maybe felt a little bit more accurate to this. And that's where this third chart came in. And I really love this as kind of an in-between. I think it feels really natural with the small motif. And so I actually decided to do the small motif on the sleeves because I thought those two paired really nicely together. And this also gave me an option to try a few different things. So these are all using Woolstok worsted in all of their various colors from their neutral bundle. I had enough yarn actually to do 2 of these in with the white as the main color, but I did not have enough. The white is actually Highland Fleece is the name. I didn't have enough to do a third, so I was either gonna need to go buy more yarn or get creative, which is what I did, and I decided to just inverse the order. So I've also added inverse charts to the pattern now because I thought it might be easier. I don't know about you, but I like charts where I can see it kind of in the gradual tones that I'm using. So if there's a reverse option, I like to have a reverse chart. So I thought it was really fun to see the difference. This is kind of like my nighttime Misty Pines, which is fun because it almost feels more like nighttime on a snowy forest instead of this being like mist in the trees on a mountain. So it kind of gives 2 different vibes just depending on what you're going for. This feels very wintry to me, which makes me really happy. I actually think this is going to be a sweater I wear a lot over like November, December, January. Just those really cold months where I want like a proper winter sweater. So I was able to do the inverse of that, which I'm so happy with. Also, with each version, I did different sleeves, which is really fun. So on this version, I just did a standard tapered sleeve. On the blocky large version, I did balloon sleeves with the large motif. You can see this small motif is all matching. So it's a small motif on the body, small motif on a tapered sleeve. The large blocky version has the large blocky motif on the body and large blocky motif on the sleeves with a balloon. And then this one just kind of married the two. And so it is large tapered motif on the body, and then you've got the small motif on the sleeves with a balloon. So I just think it's really fun that you can see all the different options. When I had the idea to make the third chart, I knew I needed to have that as a sample, and I thought it just would be fun to experiment a little bit so you can see how different it will look depending on what choices you make with the charts, with the sleeves, all of that. So really happy this is done. A lot of my testers have finished. It's fun to see all of the different things that my testers have tried, either with color or with their chart placement, what they've done with the sleeves. So that's really cool to see, and the test is going to be ending really soon. So far, everything is looking great. So my plan right now is that I'm going to release the Misty Pines Sweater pattern on October 16th. And my idea for that is that it will be out just in time for everybody who's going to any sort of Rhinebeck festivities, the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, if you will. I will not be going to any of those things, but I will be living vicariously through everybody who will be. I know my Fidalgo cardigan will be at Woolen Affair at the So Happy Jane booth, so they will all be living vicariously through me. But I thought it would be really fun to release this in the run-up to Rhinebeck. So October 16th is a Thursday, and all of the festivities, I believe, start on the 17th, which is that Friday. And so this pattern will be out. That way, if you wanted to pick out some fun yarn while you're there, all the information you need will be there on the pattern. I'll give a little bit more information about what I recommend for the yarn in an upcoming video. We've still got a few weeks before the release, so I'm not going to go super in depth now, but just keep an eye out for that. Okay, so that was my big finished object. This is the thing that has been kind of holding me back for a while because I've just been working on the Misty Pines Sweater for so long. I mean, knitting 3 sweaters, it's not a small feat, so that's just taken up all of my knitting time. I do have sort of a partial finished object. It is technically a finished object, but I'm now knitting matching sets. And this is another fun announcement that I have, so I'm gonna go ahead and show these guys now. These are socks that I have been keeping secret for a very long time. So these are my Rain City socks. This is a design that I came up with several months ago now, actually. This was a collaboration that I did with Heart to Heart Knitting and Fiber Arts. It's an LYS out here. They reached out to me and asked if I would design a pattern for them for their PNW yarn crawl, which was April, I believe. It's been so long now, I don't even remember exactly when it was, but I believe it was in April because it was right before the Puget Sound LYS tour. And this is a much smaller, like a little yarn crawl that just has a handful of yarn stores in the area. So I, of course, said yes. And what I thought would be fun, so they had a bit of a theme, and the theme was for the crawl, the theme was Monopoly, and for their particular store, it was Waterworks. And so I was trying to think of something that would be fun to do on theme, but would still relate back to the area. They told me I didn't have to worry about the theme, but that it could be fun. And they sent me this yarn, which is from Trilogy yarns. This is the Glamourous base, which is the sock base. I think it's just 75/25 merino, superwash merino nylon. And so they sent me a bunch of colors to play with, and I dabbled for a while, and then I was just thinking, you know, thinking about Waterworks, thinking about the Puget Sound, and I'm like, well, hello, the rain. Especially since these were being released in the springtime, I thought it would be fun to play off of what this area is known for. A nickname for Seattle is Rain City, because it does rain quite a bit here in the spring and the fall and the winter, really. It rains here a lot every time but the summer, basically. So that's where I came up with the idea, and with all the colors that I had, I thought it would be really fun to play with umbrellas, and like really bright, fun colored umbrellas. Something I love about living here is that I think because we have so many gray months where it's rainy and a little bit drab, most people tend to have really bright rain gear, whether it's a really fun raincoat. Not many people actually do use umbrellas here, to be fair. But if you're in like a torrential downpour, then yes, you would need an umbrella. But just the idea that people like to wear really bright colored rain gear to kind of, I think, balance off of how gray it is, just I thought would be a lot of fun to play with here, and just the idea of really fun, bright umbrellas. So these are my Rain City socks, and I finally got the rights back to the pattern because, of course, when you do a collaboration for a yarn store, they own the rights for a while because they want to be able to sell the yarn in store and give away the pattern. And so I am getting the rights back to the pattern now, and this pattern I'm going to be releasing on October 1st, and that is to coincide with Socktober. So I'm not sure how many of you enjoy sock knitting, but Socktober is a really fun month where basically it's just it's just a fun excuse to knit socks in October. So I always love to participate because I love knitting socks. I love knitting fun color work socks. Those are some of my favorite things to knit, especially if I'm in a bit of a knitting rut. I will just knit up a color work sock. It knits up so fast, and it's really rewarding because the rows move quickly, and as you're working through the chart, you just want to get one more row, and the next thing you know, you have a really fun sock. So as per usual with my sock patterns, this comes with 2 heel options. You can see that I have knit the shadow wrap heel, but it also comes with afterthought heel instructions. I also have testers who will do the heel flap and gusset, so any heel you want to add in here is totally fine. That's up to you. But yeah, so I am going to be releasing this pattern on October 1st, and what's really fun is if you are not a newsletter subscriber, you should definitely go subscribe to my newsletter if you have any interest in these at all, because newsletter subscribers will get these socks for 99 cents. So just because this pattern has been out for a while, but it's been really under the radar and I couldn't really talk about it. I was trying to think of the best way to re-release this, and I'm like, I think it would be fun to just kind of celebrate the fact that it is out, celebrate the fact that we are going into fall and the rainy season here in Washington and probably a lot of places. And so I just thought it would be a fun little thing to give my newsletter subscribers this pattern for 99 cents. So definitely subscribe if you want this pattern. So basically these are a finished object, if you will. They've only been worn for the photo shoot. We had a really fun time with the photo shoot, and I will share those photos soon, so keep an eye out for those. But I haven't actually worn them yet, and I wanted to do one of each where I really wanted yellow umbrella socks because I don't know, I love a yellow umbrella, especially against all this blue. I just thought that was so pretty. But then I also had all of these colors, and so I thought it would be fun to do more of like a rainbow one. And so that way you can kind of see what it looks like multicolor versus single color. Also, this is a fantastic scrap project because this barely uses any yarn for these contrast colors. So I'm probably going to be making a bunch of these. I know Thomas has already asked for a pair, so he still actually has to pick out the yarn that he wants for these, but those might be something that I actually start knitting in October. In the meantime, I have actually cast on another one because even though this is technically a pair and could be finished, I want to knit the pair for each one, so I actually get 2 pairs out of these. So I've just started, I will probably be doing the yellow one first. So I've just started that one. I actually just cast this on and started this last night. It moves so quickly, especially once you get past the ribbing and you get in the color work, it just flies. It's really, really simple. I will show you here. So you'll see there are a couple of places where you technically have 3 colors in one row, but you are only ever holding 2 strands at one time because those rows you'll actually just be slipping that stitch, kind of like mosaic knitting. So you're only ever holding 2 colors at a time, which makes this move really quickly. So these are my Rain City socks, knit with the Trilogy yarns in the Glamourous base. I love these. I can't wait to begin wearing them. So hopefully this won't take me too much longer. Although I will say I have all the things cast on right now, so we'll just see which one wins. Speaking of all of my cast-ons, I can finally bring this guy back out. I feel like I haven't talked about this in forever. My Fidalgo cardigan, work in progress. So this is my second Fidalgo cardigan that I'm working on, and this is in Malabrigo Rios in the color Pearl 10, which is this deep purple. Look at that, look how fun that is. So I'm pretty far along with this actually, I think. Yeah, so I have just actually added in the 3rd buttonhole, and I stopped it here because I wanted to try it on and make some decisions. In my original Fidalgo cardigan, I did 4 buttons and that was it. But I think I actually want this one to be longer, so I'm gonna do 5 buttons. So that was just, I needed to stop at this point because either I will be starting ribbing soon or I will be doing a whole other buttonhole. So now that I've decided that I'll be doing a whole other buttonhole, we can keep it moving. There is a chance I will not have enough yarn. There is a very high likelihood of that. This is what I have left. I actually think I have 1 more skein unwound, but that's basically all I've got. So there is a high likelihood that I might need to go out and buy 1 more skein. I think as long as it goes on the sleeves, I'm not too worried. I'm pretty sure Malabrigo doesn't even do dye lots anyway, so it wouldn't really matter. I mean, there's always a chance it might look crazy, but if it's on the sleeves, I'm less concerned about it just because it's a different knitting direction and it always kind of looks a little bit different because of the way the light hits, so I'm okay with that. And also just the fact that Malabrigo's pretty consistent. So we will see what the yarn situation looks like on this guy, but I'm not gonna buy any yarn unless I absolutely need it. I love this pattern. I really just wanted a nice, cozy, heavy decay, light worsted kind of cardigan that knits up quickly with a button band that's done at the same time. Just really mindless, really easy to knit up. The flat rows, even though you're knitting flat, you're knitting on the right side and then you do all of your ribbing on the wrong side, so it doesn't really matter either way. and it just flies. This knits up so quickly. Like before you know it, you're almost done. Like I haven't spent much time on this, and so for this to be like halfway there, I'm pretty impressed by. If you watched several episodes back, then you will also know that I have decided I will be making my own buttons for this cardigan, and I've tried a few different options at this point. Now I will say a lot of people voted on the very first buttons I made, which were kind of like a black iridescent glitter inside of a clear button. And I think I agree. I think those look the best. However, I only made 4 of those buttons, so I'm gonna need to make more anyway. I am still going to be doing a button making video at some point. I've just been so busy with a lot of other commitments. We also had some crazy things happen, like we had a leak in our bathroom, which we had to get taken care of. And so there's just been a lot of like craziness happening. But I promise I will get a button making video at some point. It might be like a month or so before it happens, but it will happen. So stay tuned for that as we make some more progress on this Fidalgo cardigan. All right, last but not least, this is more of, we're still in the swatching phase right now, so there is not much to talk about here. But I'm a blue sky maker, which means that they send me yarn for a couple of projects a year. The first project of mine that I did for the year was actually the Anacortes pullover, which used Skyland DK. And then the second yarn that I really wanted to work with was actually their brushed Surrey. I have worked with this before on my Frost and Flurry shawl, and I absolutely loved it. Like the fabric that it makes is so stunningly soft and beautiful. You can see just how fluffy it is because it is, as it says, it's a brushed Surrey. So you have this core, and then you just have these like wispy brushed bits of Surrey that just kind of hang off of it. So it's got a really nice texture to it. It's incredibly soft. It can be a little bit difficult to work with because it's quite sticky and because you've got all that texture, but I think it's worth it for the finished result. So I will show you this. This is just a swatch. It's nothing. It's nothing that's actually going to exist in the world, but you can see that it still shows off texture really well. And it feels amazing. And so what I really wanted to do with this yarn was some sort of a scarf or a shawl or a wrap. And I knew that early on, and that's kind of all I had in my mind. And so over the last couple of months, I've been thinking more about what I actually want it to be. And I've narrowed it down to a couple of things, which I'll talk more about in the future. I'm just gonna hint at it for now. My initial thinking was actually like a scarf, like a big rectangular scarf. And I want to kind of like ask this as a question because it's really funny, the difference sometimes between what you want to wear and what you want to knit. And so I'm curious if I'm the only one here or if other people kind of feel the same way. I really want a big, chunky scarf. I just don't know if I feel like knitting a big, chunky scarf. And there's also a motif that I have in my mind that I actually think would play really nicely with more of your traditional triangle shawl style, just based off of kind of the middle point and where all of the stitches will come out of that. However, I don't know if I want to wear the shawl as much as I want to wear the scarf. Now, of course, you can make the shawl work like a scarf, and so that might be what I end up doing just because a shawl is so versatile and it's a little bit more fun to knit, mostly because it starts so small and then it just grows to really as big as you want to make it. But, you know, there is something to be said about a big, chunky, rectangular scarf that you wrap around yourself a couple of times. So I just wanted to ask how you guys feel about that. Like, if you agree with that assessment, if it's just me, do you want to knit things that differ from what you want to wear? Like, do you love the big rectangular scarves, but you choose not to knit them because you just don't want to deal with that? Are you okay with just powering through because you know you want to wear it? Or do you actually prefer the shawls, the wraps? I don't know if I'm much of a small shawl or small scarf kind of person. I like the really big, over-the-top, ridiculous scarves because I just want to be really warm and really cozy, and I don't want to be worried about my neck being cold at all. So I love the idea of being able to wrap something around me a whole bunch. And of course, you can do that with a shawl or a scarf, but I'm just curious. I want to hear what you guys think. I actually put up a poll on Instagram too, just because I want to know. Like, it's not going to affect what I do. I still need to swatch a whole bunch before I determine what I think is the best use of this yarn, just based on how the pattern really shows up. But I am just genuinely curious, like, what your preference is. Do you like a more basic scarf? Do you like a shawl or a wrap? Do you like more of like a bandana or a neckerchief or something like that? Do you prefer cowls? And then does what you prefer to wear differ from what you prefer to knit? And are there things that you love to knit but you don't wear because you don't want to? Or will you make the sacrifice to knit something you don't like knitting so that you can wear it? I know that was like 5 questions in one, but I just am genuinely curious. Like, I think for me, if I really want to wear the thing, I will power through and knit it. I mean, you saw I knit 3 sweaters when I really only needed to knit 1. However, if I want the thing in my wardrobe, I'm gonna knit it. I'm gonna make it happen. And especially knowing I can knit it instead of feeling like I have to go buy it. Like, I know I could technically just go buy myself a big rectangular scarf. Will I do that? Absolutely not, because I know I can knit it for myself. So I'm just curious, how do you feel about that? Are you in the same boat as me, or do you think I'm just being crazy? But anyway, so this is just swatch progress for now of this. I need to play around a little bit more and figure out some direction on this, but this will be some sort of a shawl or wrap or scarf coming very soon. All right, well, that actually concludes all of my knitting for today. I feel like I finally have a lot of fun things to show. Really excited to be diving into fall and going into some fall knits. It is that time of year now, and I know, like most knitters, we are all just so excited to have even more of an excuse to break out the big chunky yarns and the big fuzzy yarns. So yeah, that's it for my knitting. We can go ahead and talk about book chat a little bit. So I finished the book Assistant to the Villain by Nicole Maehrer. Yeah, this book wasn't for me. This isn't going to be a book I'm going to recommend. It was really, really hyped. I had been seeing it everywhere. I'd been hearing a lot of people talk about it. And, you know, as we're going into fall and those cozier months, I was thinking it would be fun to get a book that's kind of like fun, not take itself too seriously fantasy. A lot of people said that it was really cute and funny, and it's basically about sort of a magical land, but also based in a little bit of realism, where this woman comes across the famous villain who is unnamed for a while, and he's just like the villain of their village, and he's known as being like this awful guy, and the king is trying to get rid of him. And she decides she really needs a job, so she takes an assistant job and becomes his assistant. And there's like a really mild love story there and all of that. Hijinks ensue. I don't know. I think this one was just, it felt very YA, but it's not listed as YA. And I don't even mind YA, but I don't know. It was just a little too cheesy for me, I think. Like, I was looking for maybe something with a little bit more to it. And this wasn't it. So, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing I've read, but it also wasn't great. So it's not something I would really recommend. So in order to get more of the vibes I really wanted from my early fall book, I decided to go ahead and start reading Vampires of El Norte, and this is by Isabel Cañas. I've been seeing this pop up in a lot of people's recommended reads, and this seems to be more along the speed of what I'm looking for. So this is a story based in 1840s Mexico, and it takes place right on the border of Mexico and Texas. And so it's about a rancher's daughter. There is a bit of a Romeo and Juliet style love story that plays a part, and there's also some sort of dark vampire dynamic. It's really more of like a monster vampire at this point, not like a sexy vampire. I am probably about 35% through right now, so I don't know much about the vampire as of yet, but I love a vampire book. I love vampires. Dracula is my all-time favorite book ever. I can reread that book as many times as possible. I do the Dracula Daily. I love that book. That is just such a fantastic read for me. It's creepy in all the right ways, but it's also very subtle. And so I'm always looking for a style of a vampire story that is more like subtly creepy instead of in your face or grotesque or overly gory. And so far, I'm really liking the vibes of this book. So we'll see. Again, I'm still sort of early in right now, and you're just really getting to know the characters, getting to know the dynamic of what has happened with some of the characters who haven't spoken in a long time. And it's been an enjoyable read so far, so we will see how that goes. Feels perfectly timed with the changing seasons. All right, and that is all I've got for you today. That's everything I've been reading, everything I've been working on. Tuna is fast asleep. Bagel has stopped playing with his ball. So definitely let me know what your preference is on, what you like to knit in terms of accessories for the fall and winter, and if those differ from what you actually like to wear. And I'm really curious to hear what people say about that. Definitely sign up for my newsletter if you are interested in any of the patterns I've talked about. And that's basically all I've got for you. If you stuck around until now, thank you so much for watching. And if you would like to get in touch with me, I am meeshyfrazz on Instagram and Ravelry. You can email me at meeshyfrazz@gmail.com, and you can find me on my website, which is meeshyfrazzknits.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.